Welcome to Between Worlds. I'm Boa, and this is a place where stories live. Stories that make you feel, wonder, or drift into your imagination. It's called Between Worlds because that's exactly where we'll go together. Between reality and dreams, everyday life and adventure. Moments that inspire, scare, or simply help you relax. From real-life experiences, creative short films and travel adventures, to bedtime stories and tales that help you unwind. This channel shares them all. The voice you hear is completely human, and the art, photographs and visuals are made by humans whenever possible. That's the way it should be. Things I believe AI will never truly replicate. After all, humans need real, and nothing beats a real human voice telling a story. If you enjoy what you hear and see, subscribe and step between worlds with me. Let's begin. 2:17 a.m. When I moved to Tokyo, I told myself I wanted solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. There's a difference. Solitude feels intentional, chosen, controlled. Loneliness feels something choosing you. I didn't understand that distinction when I signed the lease. The apartment was in Setagaya, 22 square meters, clean, efficient, white walls, a narrow balcony facing another building only a few meters away. The rent was suspiciously low. The agent mentioned it casually, as if commenting on weather. There was a previous incident in the neighboring unit. Incident. That's how they say it here. Clean language for messy endings. I knew the term jiko bukken. Everyone who rents long enough in Tokyo learns it. An apartment where somebody died unnaturally. It was 2 years ago, he added quickly. The room has been renovated, as if fresh wallpaper can erase despair. I signed anyway. I told myself I didn't believe in things lingering. I believed in insulation, plumbing, wiring. I believed in rational explanations. The first 2 weeks were peaceful. Tokyo apartments are thin, but the culture is quiet. You don't slam doors, you don't stomp, you exist softly. That's why the sound stood out. 2:17 a.m. exactly. Every night. A sliding door opening. Wood against wood. A pause. Then a faint shift of weight. Like someone sitting down. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Old buildings settle, wood expands, pipes move. But the sound was too precise, too rhythmic, and it happened only once. Every night, at 2:17 a.m. I started waking up before it happened, my body adjusting before my mind admitted anything was wrong. 2:15. I would lie there in the dark, listening, waiting. At 2:17, the door would slide open. The soft thud would follow. And then, breathing. Not loud, but present, steady, right through the wall beside my bed. I told myself it was the wind in the ventilation system. Until the night, I pressed my ear against the wall. The breathing stopped instantly. Not faded. Stopped. Like someone had realized I was listening. There's a specific kind of fear that doesn't spike. It settles. It becomes heavy and permanent. That's what began happening to me. I asked the building manager about the unit next door. He seemed confused. That room is empty. I laughed awkwardly. No, I mean the tenant. He stared at me, too long. There is no tenant. That night, I didn't turn on the lights. I wanted to hear it clearly. 2:16, my chest felt tight. 2:17, the sliding door opened, but this time, something else happened. 3 slow knocks on the shared wall, right where my head rested. I didn't move. I couldn't. Then a voice, so faint it barely existed, breathing words, "I know you're awake." The voice didn't sound aggressive. It sounded familiar, like my own voice recorded and played back slightly distorted. I told myself I was sleep deprived. Tokyo does that to you. Long commutes, long hours, isolation. The next morning, I examined the wall. No marks, no damage, just smooth, painted white surface. I almost convinced myself it had been a dream. Until that night. 2:17. The sliding door opened, but the thud didn't follow. Instead, something dragged across the floor, slowly. From their side of the wall, toward mine, then stopped. Directly beside where my bed was, the breathing started again. Closer, more textured, like someone exhaling into plaster. "I'm not alone," it whispered. That sentence changed everything, because the fear shifted. It wasn't about being haunted, it was about sharing space. I began staying out late, avoiding sleeping there. Internet cafes, 24-hour diners, walking aimlessly through Shibuya until the train stopped. But exhaustion always won. I'd return, lie down, and wake at 2:17. One night, I decided to confront it. I stood up exactly at 2:16 and pressed both palms flat against the wall, waiting. 2:17, the sliding door opened, but this time, my palms felt pressure pushing back. Not hard, just present, like someone's hands pressing against mine from the other side, mirroring me. My breath became uneven. I whispered, "What do you want?" Silence. Then the pressure increased slightly, and the voice came again. "You're closer." Closer to what? I pulled my hands away. The pressure vanished instantly. I moved out 2 days later. I didn't tell the manager why. He didn't ask. But when I handed him the key, he hesitated before saying something. "You lasted longer than others." Others, plural. I forced myself to ask, "What happened next door?" He exhaled slowly. A man lived alone. He stopped going to work. Neighbors heard him talking at night. Talking to who? No one, the manager said. One night at 2:17, he took his life, sitting against the shared wall. I didn't sleep for 3 days after that. But here's the part I've never told anyone. About a week after moving out, I woke up in my new apartment. Different ward, different building, concrete walls, no shared wooden partitions. I checked my phone, 2:17 a.m., and I heard it. A sliding door, from somewhere inside my room. "12:41. I used to love the last train. There's a version of Tokyo that only exists after midnight. The neon softens, the air feels less rushed, people stop performing who they are. The last train feels honest. That night, I boarded at Shinjuku, with seconds to spare. The doors slid shut behind me with that mechanical finality, the kind that makes you feel like something has been decided. I checked my phone as I sat down, 12:41 a.m. battery at 63%. The carriage wasn't empty, but it wasn't crowded either. A salaryman asleep with his head tilted back, a university student scrolling, an older woman holding a tote bag in both hands like it contained something fragile. No one made eye contact. I sat facing the window. The train pulled away. Lights stretched across the glass in long horizontal streaks. Everything felt normal, until Nakano. We slowed into the station. That's when I saw her. She was standing near the edge of the platform. Long dark hair, pale coat, no bag. She wasn't looking at her phone, wasn't shifting her weight, wasn't fidgeting, just standing there. The doors opened. No one boarded near me. The doors closed. The train began moving again. I looked down at my phone for maybe 3 seconds. When I looked back up, she was inside the carriage, standing at the far end, facing the door. I don't remember her entering. No footsteps, no rustle of fabric, no shift in the air. She was just there. The train swayed slightly on the tracks. She didn't. Not even a little. Her balance was wrong. I scanned the carriage to see if anyone else noticed. No one reacted. The salaryman still slept. The student still scrolled. The older woman stared forward. The lights flickered once, brief. When they steadied, she was sitting across from me. I didn't see her walk. She hadn't passed me. She was simply seated now, head lowered, hair covering her face. My chest tightened in a way that didn't match the situation. It wasn't panic. It was recognition, like my body understood something before my thoughts did. I focused on the window reflection instead of looking at her directly, and that's when something slipped. Her reflection was looking at me, while her physical body remained still. Her reflection's head tilted slightly. A small smile formed, but the version in front of me didn't move. I blinked. The reflection blinked slower. Then her real head began lifting. Not smoothly, not naturally, almost segmented, as if frames were missing between movements. Her eyes were wide, too wide. Her smile stretched further than expression should allow. The lights flickered again, longer this time. When they came back, she was gone. The seat across from me was empty, but the air felt colder. The older woman was now staring at me, not blinking, just watching. "Did you see her?" I asked quietly. She didn't respond. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came out. The train jolted suddenly. Emergency braking. The lights cut out completely. The carriage dropped into darkness, and in that silence, I heard breathing. Close, near my ear. "You stayed." The lights returned. The carriage was empty. Completely empty. No salaryman, no student, no older woman. Every seat vacant. The train began moving again, but I couldn't feel it. No vibration, no track noise, just visual motion outside the window. The digital display above the door read, Nakano. We had already passed Nakano. I checked my phone. 12:41 a.m. Still. Battery at 63%. Unchanged. I stood up. My legs felt slightly delayed, like my body was responding half a second behind my thoughts. I walked toward the intercarriage door. Each step felt longer than it should. The door at the end seemed farther away. I pushed it open. The next carriage was dark, but I could see silhouettes. Every seat filled. Figures sitting upright, heads lowered, none moving. I didn't step inside. I closed the door. When I turned around, she was sitting in my original seat again, head tilted slightly, studying me. The announcement crackled overhead, but it wasn't a station name. It was layered static, and underneath it, whispers. The train slowed again. Doors opened. There was no platform outside, just darkness, depthless. She stood slowly, walked toward the open doors, paused, turned her head slightly toward me. "You're still here," she said calmly. Then she stepped out into the dark. The doors closed, the display still read, Nakano. I don't remember what happened after that. I remember waking up on a bench at Nakano Station, morning commuters stepping around me, a station attendant kneeling beside me. "You missed the last train," he said. I checked my phone. 7:18 a.m., battery at 11%. Multiple missed notifications. Later that day, I saw a news article. A woman had stepped in front of the train at Nakano at 12:41 a.m. The exact minute I had checked my phone. I still take trains, but I never sit facing the window anymore. And sometimes, when the carriage is empty, I still see someone across from me in the reflection, waiting, like I never actually got off. The wait. I didn't go looking for the forest. That part matters. I wasn't chasing a legend. I wasn't filming content. I just needed quiet. Living in Tokyo long enough changes your relationship with silence. You crave it. But when you finally find it, it doesn't feel the way you expect. I rented a small car and drove west toward Yamanashi. The sky was clear when I left. By the time I exited the highway, it had flattened into a dull grey. The road narrowed gradually. Street lights disappeared. Convenience stores became rare. My GPS rerouted me onto a thinner line. I should have turned back, but I didn't. The trees thickened quickly. Tall trunks, dense undergrowth. The kind of forest that absorbs sound instead of echoing it. Then I noticed the ribbons. White strips tied around tree trunks, at uneven intervals, some tight, some loose, some aged and stained faintly brown. There were too many to be decorative. I felt something shift in my chest when I realized how close I was to Aokigahara. Not inside it, but close enough. The road felt wrong, like it was slightly narrower than it should be. Like the trees leaned inward just a little too much. Then I saw him, standing by the roadside. Business suit, white shirt, no jacket, head lowered. He wasn't hitchhiking, wasn't checking his phone, just standing there, facing the trees. I slowed instinctively, rolled down the window slightly. "Are you okay?" He didn't respond, didn't move. The air near him felt heavier, like stepping into a room with less oxygen. I drove on. 30 seconds later, he was ahead of me again. Same position, same posture. There were no intersections. No side roads. I passed him again, faster this time. The trees felt closer, the sky darker. Then I saw him again, standing in the middle of the lane. I slammed on the brakes. The car stopped just meters from him. He lifted his head slowly. His face wasn't distorted. That would have been easier. It was blank. Empty in a way that felt deeper than expression. "You shouldn't stop," he said quietly. His voice wasn't hostile, just calm, measured. "Are you lost?" I asked. He shook his head slightly. "No." A pause. "You are." The forest behind him seemed layered, not just trees, depth, movement between trunks, something watching. "I'm just passing through," I said quickly. He studied me. "You don't feel it yet." "Feel what?" He looked toward the trees. "Wait." The word landed wrong. I felt it then. Not fear, wait. Like gravity had subtly increased. Like my thoughts were half a second slower. He stepped backward toward the forest. "If you stop too long," he said, "you'll stay." Then he stepped between the trees and was gone. Not hidden. Gone. I sat there longer than I should have. Engine idling, heart pounding. The ribbons didn't move, even though I could hear the wind. I drove. Eventually, I reached a larger road. Street lights, traffic, sound. I pulled over and checked my GPS. The narrow road wasn't there, just uninterrupted forest. When I returned to Tokyo, something felt different. Subtle, heavier. Sometimes I sit on the edge of my bed and stare at nothing, for long stretches, without realizing how much time had passed. Sometimes I think about stopping, not ending anything, just stopping, standing still, facing something, listening. And late at night, when the city quiets, I feel it again, that weight, pressing down, like part of me never left, like I'm still somewhere between trees, waiting for someone else to slow down. I was told not to go to Aokigahara long before I ever considered it. Not because it was dangerous, but because of what might follow you back. My cousin, on my mum's Japanese side in Osaka, used to mention it sometimes. Not seriously, not as a warning, just in passing. Like something interesting, something strange. I don't think she ever went, but the way she spoke about it stayed with me. There was a curiosity in it. Not innocent curiosity, the kind that lingers, that circles around things people don't usually get close to. If I'm honest, it felt like morbid curiosity. She was always a little on the edge. But then again, my whole family on that side is. There's always been something slightly open. Like the boundary between things isn't as fixed as it should be. My mum was different. She didn't talk about it often. But when she did, it was never curiosity. It was caution. Quiet, measured, like she was choosing how much to say. And once, when I asked her directly, she told me something I didn't fully understand at the time. She said that when people are vulnerable, or too empathetic, or too open, there are things that notice, not things you see, not things that announce themselves, things that attach, quietly. She told me it happened to her before. She didn't explain how. She didn't need to. Then she said, there are places where those things gather. Places where people leave something behind. Not physically, something heavier. And those things don't know where to go, so they stay. She said Aokigahara is one of those places. Not because of what people do there, but because of what they feel before they do it. And that kind of feeling doesn't disappear. It settles into the ground, into the air, into the silence. The truth is, Part of me had always been curious about going, but there was also a hesitation I couldn't quite explain, something that felt more spiritual than logical. I just never followed that curiosity far enough to act on it. I didn't sit with that properly until years later, when my friend asked me to go. They wanted to see it, experience it. They described it as peaceful, beautiful, and they weren't wrong. That's the part that's hardest to explain. I hesitated, not because I was scared, because something in me didn't want them going alone, and that feeling stayed. It didn't fade, it didn't resolve, it just sat there. So I went, not because I wanted to, because it felt irresponsible not to. It was raining that day, light, constant, the kind of rain that doesn't fall so much as exist. We wore raincoats, spoke casually, kept things normal, but the closer we got, the quieter everything became. Not gradually, noticeably, like stepping into a space where sound doesn't behave the same way. Aokigahara is beautiful, almost painfully so. The moss is thick, alive. It covers everything, rocks, roots, fallen trees. It doesn't look like decay. It looks like preservation, like the forest is holding on to its own shape, refusing to let anything fully disappear. The ground feels uneven, layered over hardened lava. Every step feels slightly uncertain, like you're walking over something that never really settled. And the deeper you go, the more something changes. Not visually, subtly, physically. The air feels heavier, denser. There are pockets where the temperature drops, not from wind, not from weather, just colder. Mobile signals disappears almost immediately. 1 bar, then nothing. It's easy to get lost there, not just because everything looks the same, but because your sense of direction begins to slip, like your internal map stops matching what's actually around you. And the silence, it isn't empty, it absorbs. Your footsteps don't echo, your voice doesn't travel. Even your thoughts feel contained, like they don't leave you, they just stay there, with you. Because of what the forest became, most Japanese people don't go there. Not out of fear, something quieter than that. Respect, or something closer to spiritual caution. The forest carries a weight now, a history that hasn't moved on. And it's sad, because visually, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. We walked along a narrow path, not quite off trail, but not maintained. That's when we saw the strings. Thin lines tied between trees, some bright, some faded, some cut halfway. My friend asked what they were. I told them. People tie them so they can find their way back, a path out, a connection, and sometimes they cut them. We didn't speak much after that. The rain blurred the edges of everything, softened the distance. That's when we found it, on the ground, centered on the path. A laminated image, too clean, too intact. I picked it up. A circular light, soft, glowing, not quite a photograph, more like something trying to represent something else. On the back, a stamp, handmade, symbols I didn't recognize. It didn't feel lost. It felt placed. My friend told me to leave it. I should have. But I didn't. I slipped it into my pocket without thinking. And that's when something shifted. Not around me, within the space I was standing in. The forest didn't change, but the distance did. The space between things felt shorter, closer, denser. I turned to speak, and my friend wasn't there. No footsteps, no sound, just absence. "Hey." My voice didn't carry. It stopped, like it hit something and didn't pass through. I waited. Nothing. The air felt colder. One of those pockets, but deeper. Then something moved across the path, fast, blurred, not shaped correctly, not human, not animal, just movement. Wrong movement. My mind tried to correct it. Rain, branches, vision. "Stop," I said it out loud. I don't know why. The forest didn't respond, but something in it felt like it had registered it. I reached into my pocket. The image felt warm, not slightly warm, held warm, like it had been in someone else's hand, like it hadn't been left behind, but given. I started walking, faster. The path looked familiar, but not exact, like a version of itself, a repetition. That's when I saw my friend standing ahead, back turned, still, too still. "Hey." No response. I walked closer. Something felt off. The stillness wasn't natural. It wasn't waiting. It was placed. "Hey." They turned slightly, not fully, just enough, and I knew immediately it wasn't them. Nothing dramatic, nothing distorted, just wrong. The expression didn't belong to a person, it belonged to something holding the idea of one. I stepped back, and it was gone. Not moving, not fading. Gone. I don't remember how long I stood there. Time felt stretched, flattened. Eventually, I heard my name behind me, my real friend, breathing slightly heavier, as if they had been trying to find me. "Where did you go?" I looked at them, longer than I should have. "Where did you go?" We didn't talk about it properly. We couldn't. We left. At the edge of the forest, just before we stepped fully out, I remembered something my mum used to do. Something small. I lit a handful of senko. The smoke curled slowly into the damp air. Soft, almost invisible. I circled it around my friend, then around myself, and quietly, I said a prayer, not to anything specific, just to the forest, asking to leave cleanly, to not take anything with us, to not disturb what we didn't understand. We never went to the temple, even though someone later suggested we should. An exorcism, they said lightly. We laughed it off. Nothing had happened. At least, nothing we could explain. But I still have the image. I never threw it away. I told myself I would. I just didn't. It's somewhere in my apartment. I don't even remember exactly where anymore. Sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I think about that day. About the forest. About how still it felt. How the silence didn't feel empty. And every now and then, I notice something small. Nothing obvious, just off. A moment where the room feels slightly heavier. Where the air feels denser. Like stepping into one of those colder pockets in the forest. And once, I found the image again. I don't remember taking it out. I don't remember moving it. But it was there, on my desk, face down. I didn't touch it straight away. I just stood there, looking at it, trying to remember the last time I had seen it. I couldn't. When I finally turned it over, it looked the same, that soft circular light, that strange quiet glow, but the back, the stamp, looked darker, like the ink had deepened or spread. I told myself it was nothing, moisture, time, memory playing tricks, but now, sometimes when the room is completely silent, I get that same feeling from the forest. Not like I'm being watched. Something worse. Like I've already been noticed. And every time I think about going back, or finally getting rid of it, I remember something my mum said. Something she only said once, very quietly. If something attaches to you, she said, it doesn't always follow you. She paused, then added, almost like she wasn't sure she should say it. Sometimes it just waits for you to come back.